I started at Industrial Light and Magic and in their model shop, and so I became a creature supervisor when the Empire Strikes Back Special Edition came around, and they wanted to add some Wampa shots, and so I became the soup for that show and a guy who was like actually building the creature in the model shop, and then I was ultimately the guy in the suit when they shot the scenes. Yeah.
So you also did the Cantina creatures, or a couple of them, Catwall and Milles. I think I'm pronouncing those right. Those guys right there.
The Catwall.
Yep. And then
Those were added early on when special editions started to happen. They were George and his production team were up at Skywalker Ranch working on episode 1 on Phantom Menace, and George came up with the idea of like, as long as we're like ramping back up in production, let's put out the special editions as kind of a precursor to the prequels coming out, and then these isolated like additions to the movies started happening, and the Ketwall was one of the very first things that they decided to work on.
Yeah, and the mask is.
Yeah, it's a puppet.
Yeah, the puppet.
Yeah, so I'm like down like this, like up, making it look around, but it had a very quick turnaround on that. It was just like a 1-day sculpt, a 1-day mold, and then making the rubber version and painting it up. It was really fun. It was really fun to puppeteer.
And then you also worked on the Phantom Menace, which is my favorite. I was telling you, the pod racers. Do you have a favorite pod racer that you designed, or a favorite pod racer character?
Well, I worked on the pod racer for Ben Quadernaros, who's become kind of a GIF monster.
Yeah, he's an icon.
For sure. But I worked on him on his pod for quite a while because we started getting the designs from Skywalker Ranch, and we were all just kind of blown away because they were so complicated.
Mm-hmm.
They were almost like an engine from a jet with the fairings taking off, so you could see all the internal engine parts. And we hadn't done anything that complicated in computer graphics before. And then they showed us video of like stock cars flipping end over end and all the parts coming off, and that's what they wanted to do. And we were like, well, how are we supposed to do that? What exactly are we making here? And it kind of went from there. And then what happened is we built our versions in computer graphics, and we thought we were pretty hot shit, at that time. And then the model shop was building big versions of these as well on a separate stage. And us computer guys went over there to see what their stuff looked like. And then we realized we were only half done. There was so much more detail and so much, extra on all of those designs that we had to bring our models up to match those models. Yeah.
So what about outside of Star Wars? Could you tell everybody about what you've worked on?
I've worked on a lot of different franchises. My first movie that I ever worked on was Gremlins, and that was to help with the theater scene in the film where there's 100 gremlins all singing "I-O" to Snow White, and I got hired to help make 100 extra puppets for that sequence. And then later on, I worked on a movie called Enemy Mine, which is a golden oldie at this point, but it was sort of like 20th Century Fox's answer to why don't we own our own Star Wars franchise? Why does George Lucas own Star Wars? We'll make our own, and we'll call it Enemy Mine. And so I worked on that for over a year. And then I went on to work on things like The Fly and Naked Lunch and Men in Black and a lot of Minority Report, and then the prequels and some of the sequels. So yeah, it kind of just kept rolling along. Most recently, most of the Transformers films, Pirates of the Caribbean films, and yeah.
One more question, Howie. I like to ask this to all Star Wars people. If you had a Mount Rushmore of Star Wars characters, your top 4 personal favorites, who would they be?
Okay. I would definitely have C-3PO on there, which would look really cool as a Mount Rushmore character. I think I would have the Wampa, which I have no idea how they would do. I think I would try to do Jabba, and then Jar Jar.
What a top 4. That's going to be a fun visual to try to make later tonight.